Hello friends, let us talk about more on this kind of different viral disease. One of the disease is Zika virus. Earlier we discussed about Ebola virus, but compared to Ebola virus, Zika viral death rate or mortality rate is minimal compared to Ebola. And this Zika virus outbreak happened different part of the world. And today we are going to discuss more about the Brazilian aspect of it. But when we start with the Zika viral infection, so we'll start with what is virus, what is the structure of virus, what are the symptoms it shows, how to prevent it, how to treat it, what are the vectors. These are all the things which we are going to discuss in the beginning. Then we are going to look at Brazilian aspects, Brazilian outbreaks, how they tackle, what is the role of World Health Organization and local authority in managing the disease. So we are going to get a kind of a comprehensive analysis. First, we will look at what is this Zika virus. So Zika virus is a family of flaviviridae virus, which is similar to your yellow virus or maybe dengue virus or chikungunya virus. So it's very difficult to differentiate them from normal virus and the Zika virus. I mean, because the Zika virus, they falls under the same category, symptoms are similar, so it's very difficult to differentiate early stage. So people may get confused whether they have dengue or whether they have Zika. Zika is milder, but dengue is a severe problem. That's why the prescribing medication is also very important, where the prevalence of this kind of disease is higher. So that's a challenging thing compared to other Ebola viruses, because they are entirely different families. So you don't feel like the symptoms are also entirely different, but here the symptoms are almost similar. So it's very difficult to differentiate normal viral symptoms and this viral symptoms. So it's confusing. So better we can't prescribe. Just imagine aspirin. Aspirin cannot be prescribed for this disease in pain to reduce the pain, because the problem is aspirin is a blood thinner. So if you given, if a dengue is there, then the person may feel may face internal thrombosis. So that's the problem. So first we will look at the overall overview of the entire disease. Zika virus. So Zika virus is a mosquito-borne virus first identified in Uganda in 1947 in rhesus macaca monkey, followed by evidence of infection and disease in humans and other African countries in 1950s. That means it was first discovered from rhesus monkey, but slowly this transferred, I mean the infection spread from this monkey to human beings. It's mainly because in African culture, you know, that they eat bush meat, the meat which is just dried in sunlight without uh, what you are calling boiling or cooking or meeting the particular temperature. So what if this virus will survive inside, it slowly enter inside the human body, and some may be immune to it, some may not, mainly because if they have eaten a large quantity of viral load. So viral load is also important in case of virus infections. From the 1960s to 1980s, the sporadic human infections were detected across Africa and Asia. However, since 2007 outbreak of Zika virus have been recorded in Africa, Americas, Asia, and Pacific. After 2007, we start observing a different place. One thing is earlier it may be there, it might have been there, but it was isolated cases where their own surveillance system wasn't there and recorded records were may not be available about particular disease. So that's why sometimes what happens, most of the disease may go unnoticed. In outbreaks over the last decades, the Zika virus infection was found to be associated with increased incidence of this GB syndrome. So then, why these people start thinking about this GB syndrome? That's Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is associated with a brain and hair. So because of that neurological problem, so when that problem started, people start connecting the dots and start finding out what might be the reason for this Guillain-Barré syndrome. When Zika virus emerged in the Americas with a large epidemics in Brazil in 2015. So 2015 is a dark year in history of Brazil, particularly because it started affecting these women, children, and particularly the pregnant women. So it was a big challenge for them, even after, like, even though we faced HIV current, but after that, this is one more threat to the tropical country like Brazil, where population is high and they are close communities. So it's very difficult for them to tackle. So that's the issue which was emerged particularly in the Americas. An association between Zika virus infection and microcephaly smaller than it says. So this is the biggest challenge, microcephaly condition in children. That means they will have a small head compared to their body. So that's a really challenging thing, because initially people suspected there is a possibility of connection between infection of a mother and microcephaly children, but later they proved it. Particularly, they found some similar findings in French Polynesian islands also. From February to November 2016, World Health Organization declared a public health emergency of international concern regarding microcephaly, other neurological disorders, and Zika virus, and the link between causal link between Zika virus and congenital malformation was soon confirmed. So that thing initially they had suspected, then they confirmed because it's you need to prove it clinically, then only you can claim it. Outbreaks of Zika virus were identified throughout most of the Americas and in other regions with established link between these Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. That means these mosquitoes are the one which spreads, which act as a vector, which carry this virus and spread from human to human. Infections were detected in travelers from active transmission areas, and sexual transmissions was confirmed as an alternative route of Zika virus infections. It is not just mosquitoes were spreading. Then sexual transmission is one more problem among human beings. Blood transmission, when we do, the virus can move from one human to another human. These are all challenging things. Cases of Zika virus disease globally declined from 2017 onwards. However, Zika virus transmission persists at a low level in several countries in the Americas and other endemic regions. So endemic cases or isolated cases were there across the globe, but it was not like an outbreak. A large number of people are getting infected in the same season. So it's very difficult to tackle in. So because our primary healthcare system is not so advanced up to handle this load, so it may collapse. In addition, the first local mosquito-transmitted Zika virus disease were reported even in Europe in 2009. Zika virus outbreak activity was detected in India in 2021. 2019, one of the cleanest places on earth called Europe is also got reported. And same time India, where surveillance system they put up and they brought all the missionaries to control. So somehow we managed to control. But recently, one case of Zika virus was reported from India. To date, a total of 89 countries and territories have reported evidences of mosquitoes transmitted Zika virus infection. However, surveillance remains limited globally. So what happens is many countries reported this. Then what about the surveillance system? So that is important. So one is creating an awareness among a population that these are all the disease which is spread by mosquito. So controlling mosquito population is a one challenging thing, particularly tropical and subtropical countries where the climate is good for the mosquito to breed. And and the population is also high. The mosquito will get a host after host, so they can transmit disease easily compared to any other place on earth because of the tropical heavy populations. And what about our surveillance system? Our surveillance system is not so strong because our data system is not so strong, so chances of infections are high here. We were talking about Zika virus infection and Zika virus. So we will look at a structure of the Zika virus. Zika virus is a member of Flaviviridae family, which also includes other well-known viruses such as dengue virus, West Nile virus, and uh, yellow fever virus. So they're all falls under this. So that's what I was telling about you all, that it's very difficult to differentiate them. So now if you look at the Zika virus or maybe dengue virus or maybe West Nile virus, so they have a unique structures. So envelope, they got an envelope proteins. The outer layer of the Zika virus is composed of lipid bilayer envelope derived from the host cell membrane. We'll look at the picture in the next slide. And this whole system is embedded in this envelope are glycoproteins, including the envelope protein, E protein we call. Envelope protein play important virus attachment entry into host cell. So this envelope protein is very important because this protein is the real key through which the virus can attach to any cell surface. I mean the cell membrane surface, and it can manage to invade animal system and cause the infection. So that's why this envelope protein system is important. Then next comes capsid. Beneath the viral envelope lies the capsid, which is a protein shell that encloses the viral RNA genome, and the capsid protein is responsible for maintaining the structure of viral particles. So this is the real skeleton, capsid. So capsid is a real skeleton which protects its genetic material safely inside the cell. Now this RNA, and the next is genome. What is the genome in case of this virus? Here the genome is RNA. The Zika virus genome is single-stranded positive sense RNA molecule. The positive sense RNA means that genome RNA can be directly translated into viral protein by host cell machinery. The RNA genome carries the genetic information necessary for the virus to replicate and produce new viral particles. So that means it carries all the necessary genetic material which are required for the bacteria to, virus to attach, enter, replicate and make its progeny and gets released and continue the infections. That means for all the strategies it need a gene support. So that gene support will be given by this RNA. There are some other proteins which are called non-structural proteins like NS1, NS2A, NS2B, NS3, NS4A, NS4B, NS5. This flavivirus encodes several non-structural proteins that play a crucial role in the virus life cycle, including viral replications, evasion of the host immune response. So this is the one thing. This virus can, because it's an intracellular pathogen which attaches the cell and go inside the cell, and that attaching and going inside the cell is not sufficient. It has to develop a strategy to escape from the surveillance system of our immune mechanism, right? So it has that. These proteins include NS1, NS2A, NS2B, NS3, NS4A, NS4B, and NS5. So then this flavivirus, all this family of virus, conserved domain is there. So particularly the Zika virus shares a conserved domain with other flavivirus. For example, NS5 protein contains an RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, essential for viral RNA replications. You can see in this picture, there is an envelope outside, then protein, membrane proteins are there, then capsid protein, then the single-stranded RNA genome. So this virus enter the back. I mean, when this mosquito bites, what happens is through our blood circulatory system. This is not a mosquito-borne virus. This virus will be there in mammals or maybe in humans. This mosquito bites. Mosquito is just a vector. Even though we blame mosquito, but mosquito is just a vector. Mosquito is not having any role in the disease, but it has a role in disease spreading. Now, what are the symptoms? There are many symptoms associated with disease. As per World Health Organization or World WHO, the most people infected with the Zika virus do not develop symptoms. That means the most people infected with the Zika virus do not develop any symptoms. That means they can act as a silent carrier. So that's the challenging thing. You don't show any symptoms. When you don't show symptoms, you don't test it. When you don't test it, you are a potential silent warehouse of this particular virus. Among those who do, they typically start 3 to 14 days. If a particular person, their immune system is weak, if they start showing symptoms, it takes around, incubation time is 3 to 14 days after injection, after infections. Or they show symptoms which are mild, including rash, fever, conjunctivitis, that is reddening of your eyes and itching and inflammation of eyes, muscle and joint pain, malaise, headache, and usually last for 2 to 7 days. So rash, fever, conjunctivitis, muscle, joint pain, malaise, headache, and it usually you can see all these symptoms for around 2 to 7 days. Though these symptoms are common to other arboreal and non-arboreal diseases, thus diagnosis of Zika virus infection require laboratory confirmations. That means it is similar to dengue infection, it is similar to chikungunya, it is similar to yellow virus, it is West Nile virus. It's all similar. So how will you able to say this is this virus, this is this virus? So it's very difficult to differentiate between them because most of this disease won't have onset problems. But here that's not true. Here microcephaly is the big challenge. You can see in the picture, the mother is holding a baby with microcephaly, larger body with a smaller head. So that's why the laboratory confirmation of Zika virus is needed. Now complications. What are the complications these Zika viral infected people face? Zika virus infection during pregnancy is cause of microcephaly and other congenital malformation in the infant, including limb contractures, high muscle tones, eye abnormalities, and hearing loss. These clinical features are collectively referred to as the congenital Zika syndrome. So all these effects like congenital malformations like limb contractures, high muscle tones, eye abnormalities, hearing loss. Together we call this a congenital Zika syndromes. The risk of congenital malformations following infection in pregnancy remains unknown. An estimated of 5 to 15% of infants born to women infected with Zika virus during pregnancy have evidence of Zika related complications. Only 5 to 15, but largely we don't know. The congenital malformations occurs following both symptomatic and asymptomatic infections. If it is symptomatic infections, okay, we treat them at least. But what about asymptomatic infections? And Zika infection in pregnancy can also cause complications such as fetal loss, stillbirth, and preterm birth. Premature birth we call them. Birth happens before prescribed time. Zika virus infection can also cause GB syndrome. That means it leads to neuropathies, myelitis, and particularly in adult and older children. So it's not the Zika viral infection directly causing a problem. Because of Zika viral infections, other problems start appearing in our body. That's the challenging thing, including GB syndromes, including microcephaly, and other symptoms like fetal loss, stillbirth, and pre-birth, preterm birth, and all those things. Then how this disease is transmitted? We all know, we have some idea. This Zika virus is primarily transmitted by infected mosquitoes. That is the important thing. Not just mosquitoes, but infected mosquitoes. Which mosquito? It is Aedes genus, that is Stegomyia. Mainly Aedes aegypti in tropical and subtropical regions. This is the aegypti is the species which specifically transmit or maybe act as a vector for this virus. And these mosquitoes, these Aedes mosquitoes are usually active during daytime. That's why dengue is also similar. And these mosquitoes also transmit dengue, chikungunya, urban yellow fever. So yellow fever is a one viral problem, chikungunya is another form, because they are all coming under the same family of virus. And it's by same genus and species of mosquitoes. Zika virus is also transmitted from mother to fetus during pregnancy, as well as through sexual contact, transfusion of blood, blood products, possibly through organ transplantations. Unprotected sexual contact is one of the reasons for most of the disease transfer. So if we don't know the partner history, partner connections, we don't know whether they carry virus or not, because we don't screen for it. Unless we screen, we don't have any surveillance system to see that they are infected or not. So that's one problem. Then transfusion of blood. Blood transfusion in emergency situation is challenging, because through blood transfusion we can save many lives, and but at the same time this blood transfusion is challenging, because unless we test and transfer the blood, that leads to a problems. And blood products, particularly during dengue infections and all, these blood products are needed, and when we transfer this, it causes a problem. Now the next question is how to diagnose these problems. Infection with the Zika virus may be suspected based on the symptoms of a person living in or visiting areas with Zika virus transmission or Aedes mosquito vectors. Yes, we know some of the areas we classify them as the most prevalent. That means the prevalency we can observe for particular disease. So we check them, screen them, whether the particular person is visited and showing some similar symptoms. Then what we can do is, then we can think about how we can identify those person and screen them for this disease, possibility of possible this disease. So infection with Zika can be easily diagnosed like this. That's the one. Then is confirmation we have to do. A diagnosis of Zika virus infection can only be confirmed by laboratory test of blood or other body fluids. It must be. That means you need to take a blood or other body fluid, and you need to check for presence of particular virus. Maybe RT-PCR or other techniques we can use. Technique we can use, and we can finalize that. It must be differentiated from the cross-reactive related flavivirus, such as a dengue virus, to which the patients may have been exposed or previously vaccinated. So many things are there because some people may be vaccinated, they may have antibodies related to that. So looking for antibodies are not the right option for that, but the right option for us is looking for its genetic materials, because that when we do RT-PCR, we can confirm the presence of particular virus easily than looking for its antibody. So that is the challenging task in diagnosis. Then treatment. If you look at this disease, there is no specific antiviral treatment for Zika virus. Not only for Zika virus, for most of these viral infections, there is no specific, like you take this X medicine, so your disease will be cured. There is no proper treatment like as such. Like so, only what we can do is a supportive care is given. A particular person need a rest, give them a rest. Hydration is needed, give them a hydration. Some fever is there, give them acetaminophen. That means a pain relief, and paracetamol tablet, what you call, and acetaminophen can reduce the fever and pain. So give them. But individual infected with Zika virus are advised to avoid non-steroidal NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. It's mainly because there may be because it's coming under falls under same class. If any cross this thing is happened, maybe a dengue virus is infected, we need to rule out no completely that this is not dengue virus. So once it is confirmed, okay, we can give other medicine, but otherwise to prescribe a medicine is really challenging. It's mainly because if I prescribe aspirin, which is having blood thinning effect, so it's going to affect us. So to avoid that, NSAID can increase the risk of bleeding in dengue. So that's the challenging thing what I was talking about. So treatment is specific, but there is no way to treat it properly. But the only way for us is to reduce the symptoms and manage the symptoms. Next, we will look at the prevention. So preventing mosquito bite is crucial in areas where Zika virus is present. This includes using mosquito repellents, wearing long-sleeved clothing, using bed nets. So we can reduce the infection chances by reducing the number of mosquito in the area, eliminate mosquitoes properly on time. Eliminating breeding such as standing water is important in controlling the mosquito population. This is all according to World Health Organization, and even local authorities that does this same thing to manage the disease. So pregnant women are advised to avoid travel areas with active Zika viral infections. Then sexual transmission Zika is possible, so precautions such as using condoms or other methods are recommended for individuals returning from areas with Zika virus. So these are all the prevention methods. Now we look at these Zika viral outbreaks in Brazil a comprehensive way, like what really happened in Brazil in 2015. The outbreak of Zika virus in Brazil was characterized by a rapid and widespread transmission of virus, primarily facilitated by the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, a vector known for also transmitting dengue and chikungunya virus. This was the thing what really happened in Brazil suddenly in 2015. Brazil, with its tropical climate, densely populated urban area, provided an ideal environment for the Aedes mosquito to thrive, contributing to the rapid spread of the virus across the country. That means because this weather is proper, mosquitoes start breeding. As the mosquitoes start breeding, what really happens is it start getting host also. It's mainly because it is thickly populated country. So that's the one more reason for why this disease spread in Brazil. Now, what is then they found from a Brazilian scenario, they found a connection between microcephaly. One of the most alarming aspects of Zika virus outbreak in Brazil was its association with microcephaly, a birth defect where infants are born with abnormally small heads and underdeveloped brains. That means they are born normally, but the problem is their head is abnormal. Remaining body parts will be normal, but head is abnormal. As the head is abnormal, the important thing what we need to notice here is their brain developmental pattern is also different. As the brain development pattern is different, it can also cause a problem in their neurological system. The surge in microcephaly cases, particularly in regions heavily affected by Zika, prompted intense research to establish a causal link between a maternal Zika viral infection during pregnancy and the occurrence of these devastating birth defects. That means the surge in microcephaly cases, particularly in regions heavily affected by Zika, prompted the intense research to establish a causal link between a maternal Zika virus, because so till that there was no connection between the pregnancy infection and this Zika virus, because they connected it properly through, I mean, they got a kind of evidences from Brazil stating that the microcephaly can be directly connected with this disease. So the, I mean, infections. What was the public health response from Brazil? So Brazilian health authorities, in collaboration with international organizations such as the World Health Organization, implemented a multifaceted response to curb the spread of Zika and mitigate its impact. Brazilian health authorities, in collaboration with international organizations such as the World Health Organizations, implemented a strong system to manage this disease. So key component of the public health response include vector control measures. That's the one thing. That means reduce the mosquito population particularly. Yeah. Public awareness campaign. So campaign to educate people about particular problems. So tell them these are all the problem what you are facing. So you manage this disease. Unless you manage it, it's very difficult. So that's the one thing. And preventive cares, travel advisories, particularly for pregnant women, those who are, if they are traveling to a particularly Zika prevalent zone. So give them a kind of travel advisory so they can manage their disease well. So that is the main idea. Next. So this is important. Vector control and public awareness. This is another measure what the Brazilian government took along with World Health Organization. Control the Aedes mosquito population, become a focal point of public health efforts. So this is the one thing. If any problem happens, the local authority and the global setup like World Health Organization, if they join their hands together, so we can manage things easily. One thing is funding can be managed with World Health Organization. Same time, we can create awareness in the public, so the public can pick up the things faster than the normal way. So initiative included the removal of standing waters, use of insecticides, and community engagement to raise the awareness about eliminating breeding sites. Then the educational campaign stressed the importance of personal protection, including the use of mosquito repellent, wearing long-sleeved clothing, using bed nets, particularly for a pregnant women. So they give kind of public awareness, or what you are calling uh, uh, public protocol, so that the people can follow the protocol and manage the infection better. So because this is vector borne disease, if you can control a vector, that means you can control a disease. So next is pregnancy and travel. So this is for particularly because it's in Brazil they found there is a huge connection between pregnancy infection and microcephaly. So government was alert about this. So due to the potential risk associated with Zika virus infection during pregnancy, health authorities issued advisories recommending pregnant women to postpone travel to areas with active Zika transmissions. So they recommended them not to travel to the area where they get infected or chances of infection is high. These precautionary measures aim to reduce the risk of congenital Zika syndrome, a spectrum of birth defect associated with maternal Zika virus infections. We have to see one important thing here is that it is spectrum of diseases it was causing. It is not that one disease it is cutting, it was causing a spectrum of disease. So it's very difficult to scientifically or clinically connect with this pregnancy infection and what you are calling disease or the manifest clinical manifestation what you see in the baby. So it's very difficult because it's a spectrum of disease. You see a large range of symptoms, may be associated with the neuropathy, may be associated with the microcephaly, may be associated with the mental retardation, or else maybe development, brain development. So many spectrum of problem you can see. So it's very difficult to see that it's the real cause for that. So cause connecting the dot and finding out what exactly the reason for a particular disease is challenging in case of this particular infections. Then what is the ongoing challenges the global community is facing, or maybe the Brazil face? In the aftermath of the outbreak, several challenges persist. The long-term effect of Zika virus infections, the potential for the virus to re-emerge. So this is the one more area. So whether the virus can re-emerge. So whether the virus can re-emerge or virus will manage to stay there like that. or when it will re-emerge, if the virus re-emerge, are we ready to face it again? Because it is phase wise, we need to manage that. We cannot manage at a time. We need to develop a vaccine, we need to develop strategies to manage this. And the development of effective vaccines are going to area of research and concern. So it's the global community cooperation is needed here. We need to develop a vaccine because we have technology, but we need to develop a vaccine. And it's not just of developing a vaccine, the effective vaccine we need to develop. Once this effective vaccine is developed, then we can think about it. Understanding the dynamics of Zika virus transmissions. Understanding the dynamics of Zika virus transmissions, particularly in the context of co-circulation with other flavivirus, remains a complex task for research and public health officials. So this is the one more challenging thing for all people who were working with this infection. So it's mainly because it's not possible for people to easily underestimate this virus, because this is co-infection chances are moving along with other virus. So isolating them, getting them, studying them is also difficult. In most of the cases, what really happens is everything was going together. So co-infection chances strategies. So that's why in the context of this kind of problems, the people facing a challenge, but as we all know that our research potential of, in particularly in this scenario, it is too good, so we can manage to create a window for a new kind of view where we can look at this virus disease as a challenging, but at the same time we can manage them better. Next, so at the end, the Zika virus outbreak in Brazil underscored the intricate interplay between infectious disease, global travel, challenge of controlling vector-borne illness. So this is because of one more thing. If it is transferring from a humans, it is somehow we can put a kind of lockdown and seal down, crack down, all those things what we have done during our COVID infections. But that kind of strategies are not possible now because it is vector-borne. So it's the mosquito which is spreading this. The response to the Zika crisis demonstrated the importance of international collaborations, then a robust public health infrastructure, and proactive measure to contain and prevent the spread of emerging infectious disease. That means we need a kind of a support from international communities, we need a local health authorities, and from the federal system, we need a collective effort to contain this kind of disease. As research continues, the lesson learned from the Zika outbreaks in Brazil contributes to the global understanding of vector-borne disease and inform strategies to mitigate their impact on vulnerable populations. That means we can develop a better strategies. As we develop better strategies, we go better in our understanding of particular disease. This is the one really what really happens. Thank you.